The Anunnaki live on the planet Nibiru, which orbits our system. They are an ancient race of extremely developed and powerful beings and can be considered gods in human eyes. But even the great Anunnaki suffered from the terrible environmental conditions on their planet. A large crack had formed in Nibiru's ozone layer. This crack widened every decade, increasing global warming and destroying crops and animal life. The Anunnaki discovered that pouring gold dust particles into the atmosphere slowed down the expansion of the crack, even reversing it slightly. But Nibiru was a mineral-poor planet, and gold was extremely scarce. The lack of food quickly led to revolt among the population. Groups of rebels challenged the central government of Nibiru, and a chaotic wave was about to sweep through every city on the planet. The rebels were led by Alalu, who, despite being part of Nibiru's noble lineage, did not have a good relationship with his parents. Trying to execute a coup d'etat, Alalu attacked and killed the king of Nibiru, demanding the throne for himself. However, there was an heir by right of lineage, Prince Anu. A public duel was organized to decide the new ruler of Nibiru. Anu and Alalu fought unarmed, and after a fierce fight, Anu was chosen as the new king of Nibiru. Alalu was judged for his actions, but before the sentence was handed down, he managed to steal a ship and escape from Nibiru. King Anu decided that exile was punishment enough for Alalu and decided to commit his efforts to saving his planet. Anu realized that the only viable solution would be to find the precious gold on other celestial bodies. Many space expeditions were made to the planets closest to Nibiru, but the results were dismal as gold veins were scarce. When hope was almost nil, a massive breakthrough was made on the third closest planet to the sun. A true paradise had been found. Most of the planet was covered with water, with large portions of land that harbored a huge diversity of animal and plant life. Even more important to the Anunnaki, there were many ores waiting to be exploited, including precious gold. To the amazement of Nibiru's entire royal court, the person responsible for the discovery was the exile Alalu. As a result of his vital contribution, he was pardoned for his crimes. The Anunnaki dubbed the planet Kai, but it was later known as planet Earth. The Anunnaki chose a region now known as Mesopotamia to build a wonderful city called Eridu. King Anu's eldest son, named Enki, was in charge of the metropolis while his father continued as ruler of the planet Nibiru. After 7 days of hard work, the Anunnaki completed the construction of Eridu. They began the processes of extracting gold, which, after being collected in considerable quantities, was sent to Nibiru. Extracting gold was an arduous and painful process. Therefore, the Anunnaki decided to resort to forced labor from an alien race called the Igigi, who had long before been defeated in battle and dominated by the Anunnaki. After hundreds of years, the planet Nibiru was practically re-established on account of the massive amount of gold mined from Earth. But the Igigi could no longer stand suffering in the gold mines and organized a full-scale rebellion. A great war inevitably occurred between the Anunnaki and the Igigi. The city of Eridu was badly damaged and many gold mines collapsed. Despite their courage and determination, the Igigi were no match for the Anunnaki in strength and technology. They were quickly subdued, but the Anunnaki realized that the Igigi had already done much to restore Nibiru, and forcing them to work would only result in new rebellions. A new solution had to be created. The Anunnaki decided to create a new race of living beings capable of working and learning but inferior to the Igigi in strength and size. To do this, the Anunnaki used the womb of a female primate that inhabited the forests and, using advanced technology, inseminated her with the Anunnaki essence. But the results were grotesque, giving rise to terrifying monsters such as Cyclops, Gorgons, and two-headed giants. The method of conception had failed. The other alternative was to use the essence of a male primate and, after modifying its DNA, to inseminate it into the womb of an Anunnaki woman. After a few months of waiting, the first baby was born, who was given the name Adamu. His skin was tanned with a reddish tint, although he was much smaller than the Anunnaki babies. Adamu was just like his creators. It was the birth of the first human being. The Anunnaki also conceived a woman named Hawa to fulfill the requirements necessary for human procreation. Centuries after the birth of Adamu and Hawa, humans represented a sizable population in the city of Eridu. The Anunnaki were pleased with the development of the humans, who soon became able to mine gold, build houses, and even plant and harvest crops. As a reward for their efforts, the humans were allowed to frequent the Eden, a sacred garden created by the Anunnaki. The beauty of human women started to attract some Anunnaki, but the relationship between the two races was strictly forbidden. But Enki himself, king of the city of Eridu, eventually fell in love with a human woman. From this relationship, the boy Adapa was born. He became a very talented and wise man, for he was the direct son of a noble Anunnaki. Adapa also had a longer life than most humans, but he was not immortal. Adapa married a woman named Titi, and they gave birth to a new line of humans who were more intelligent than the previous generation. But Ota's children also inherited the Anunnaki lust for gold and desire for power. This gave rise to violent behavior among the humans. Ota's two oldest sons, named Cain and Abel, were the closest servants of the Anunnaki and competed with each other to see who their masters could please the most. Tired of standing behind his brother Abel, Cain waited until they were alone. Using a wooden club, he murdered his brother. Never before had a human killed another, which was a surprise to the Anunnaki. As punishment, Cain had his forehead marked with a symbol pointing to him as a murderer and was exiled from Eridu. He was condemned to live forever in the world without ever finding peace for his soul. There were other similar cases later. Against the Anunnaki orders, humans began to procreate excessively. Eridu quickly became unable to provide shelter for so many people, and food sources were scarce in Eden's garden. As the planet Nibiru was recovered, mining gold in large quantities was no longer necessary. The Anunnaki decided to expel the humans from their sacred city and garden, condemning them to live in the fields and forests. After being driven out of Eridu by the Anunnaki, the humans began to wander aimlessly around the world. But something unexpected happened. Some Anunnaki and Igigi secretly had love affairs with humans. The children generated between the Anunnaki and humans were capable of amazing things, being considered demigods who would leave their names eternalized in the legends of several peoples. Some of the most famous were Gilgamesh, Hercules, Perseus, and Samson. But the children of the Igigi with humans were bestial and evil giants who became forever known as Nephilim. They usually lived in hill caves but attacked human dwellings and caused much trouble for the Anunnaki. Even without the Anunnaki support, the humans flourished and built cities of their own. Without the Anunnaki to dictate rules, the humans went into decadence. Thievery, debauchery, and violence were common in the cities, and it seemed impossible to control human barbarism. But everything was about to change. The orbit of the planet Nibiru was approaching Earth, an event that only happened every 30,600 years. The Anunnaki knew of the impending disaster, as Nibiru would reverse the Earth's magnetic poles, causing earthquakes, volcano eruptions, and tsunamis. The Anunnaki's final decision was to abandon humans, return to their ships, and flee into space where they would remain orbiting planet Earth until the natural disasters were over. Against the wishes of his advisors and family members, King Enki decided that the human race deserved a chance to save itself from the cataclysm. He commissioned Utnapishtim, a good-natured man, to create a giant ship called the Preserver of Life in preparation for a giant flood that would end life on Earth. Even in the face of the mockery of humans, Utnapishtim dutifully carried out Enki's instructions and built the ship. Utnapishtim also sheltered and protected the essence of all the animals on Earth. Enki ordered that the technology of the Anunnaki be used to collect the DNA of one male and one female from each animal specimen found. When the great ship was finally ready, the signs of approaching Nibiru could be felt all over the world. Those who had mocked Utnapishtim now feared the result of their arrogance. As predicted, the Earth was devastated by an unprecedented disaster. Earthquakes ripped the surface of the Earth, setting up new continents. Volcanoes spewed lava and glowing smoke, incinerating everything in their path. Finally, a torrential rain raised the level of the oceans, which even covered the summit of some mountains. The splendorous city of Aidu and the Garden of Eden were destroyed, as were the terrible giant Nephilim. But despite these horrors, Utnapishtim's ship held out and floated until the water returned to normal levels, unveiling a reborn world. With the help of the Anunnaki technology, life on Earth was restored. Powerful new cities were gradually built, such as Babylon, Uruk, and Nippur. Humans revered the Anunnaki again, worshipping them as gods and building temples in their honor. The human race occupied the new territories that arose after the flood, creating distinct civilizations, each representing the Anunnaki as deities according to local beliefs. But peace was again threatened, as Enki's younger brother named Enlil wanted to be Earth's chief ruler. The Anunnaki allowed humans to have their own kings in their cities, but Enlil was the sovereign of Earth with the title King of Kings. This position aroused Enlil's envy. The rivalry between Enki and Enlil became greater and greater, mainly because Enlil disliked humans and despised the fact that his brother had helped them survive the flood. Enlil believed that humans were mere laborers with limited intelligence. He never agreed with the accelerated development that the human race achieved with the Anunnaki help. To placate the situation, Enki suggested a political marriage between his son, Dumuzi, and Inanna, Enlil's granddaughter. But Enlil's eldest son, named Marduk, did not accept this idea since he intended to unseat his father and uncle and assume the title of King of Kings himself. Marduk devised a plan that caused the accidental death of his brother Dumuzi. With the end of the arranged marriage, the enmity between Enki and Enlil escalated. Marduk was punished for the crime and exiled to a lonely desert. When he was informed of the disputes between the Anunnaki living on Earth, King Anu of Nibiru decided to intervene. Anu pardoned Marduk, who was released from exile and allowed to be among the Anunnaki. Anu also ended the feud between Enki and Enlil. He promised the two brothers and other Anunnaki of royal lineage a territory for each to rule on Earth. Enlil was given the region of Mesopotamia, Enki got Egypt, Inanna got Persia, and Nanna was given the Sinai region. The pardon given to Marduk did not entitle him to rule a territory. Disgruntled, Marduk demanded Babylon, a city in which he became the main deity. Marduk decided to challenge the other Anunnaki, and contrary to Anu's orders, taught his human subjects the secret of producing iron weapons and armor, creating the best-equipped army at the time. Thirsty for power, Marduk ordered the construction of hanging gardens in Babylon to replicate the splendor of the ancient Garden of Eden, which had been devastated in the flood. Not only that, Marduk also ordered the construction of a great tower that was to reach the clouds of heaven, defying King Anu. The Tower of Babel quickly reached an impressive height, as the construction was intended to overshadow all the other Anunnaki buildings on Earth. The outrage was not ignored by the remaining Anunnaki, and each leader started preparing human armies to face Marduk. Obeying Marduk's orders, the Babylonian armies marched out to conquer and enslave other nations. This was the beginning of a great wave of wars and conflicts between the strongest peoples of the Bronze Age. The Anunnaki constantly changed sides and formed alliances with each other, leading to chaos and destruction in many major cities. Marduk's armies managed to dominate Egypt and Sinai to confront the other Anunnaki. Marduk humiliated or annihilated the conquered humans. With no other way out, Enki and his brother Enlil joined forces. With the authorization of King Anu, they used the technology of the Anunnaki weapons and ships to fight Marduk, an extreme decision with many detrimental consequences to the world. The destruction caused by the Anunnaki weapons led to multiple natural disasters. Volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis destroyed entire civilizations. Crops disappeared due to air contaminated by volcanic ash, with famine becoming ubiquitous. Desperate humans abandoned cities or formed marauding groups to attack more fertile lands. These grim events were recorded as the Bronze Age collapse. After causing such a catastrophe on the world, the Anunnaki realized that the wars would never end and could destroy the entire planet Earth. To halt the debacle, Anu ordered all the Anunnaki to return to Nibiru and let the Earth be ruled by humans. Some human leaders descended from the Anunnaki were chosen to rule the rest until the day when the Anunnaki will return to Earth to choose the people worthy of being taken to Nibiru, where they will live forever as immortals.